All right, we love y'all.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, ladies.
Good
Hey,
evening.
Wednesday.
Yes. How's everybody doing? Hopefully, everybody's good.
All right, today's topic is a sensitive one, ain't it?
Yes.
Daddy issues.
Daddy.
Um, when I think of that, it can be in so many different forms, right? Because daddy issues doesn't necessarily mean you had a bad relationship with your father. It could also mean that you had a really good relationship with your father, and then you might be, in turn, looking for someone to supplement that in your older age, right? Um, Maybe the relationship could be strained now. It could be a various of things of why someone could have daddy issues. It doesn't necessarily mean you had a bad childhood. So I think that's one thing I think we should address today is just the difference of having a good upbringing, having issues as a child, or maybe not having a close relationship as you got older and now that you're an adult, what your relationship might be and maybe the issues that came with that. How y'all feel about that?
I think you're right on point with that.
I think it's good to point that out. That I think a lot of people think daddy issues must mean you had a tishy childhood.
What's going on with Eb camera?
Bro,
We live, Miss Smith. Well, while she's figuring out her technical difficulties, I'll tell a quick story about why I
hey,
thought this would
ladies.
be a
We
topic.
got commenting. Hey, Africa. Hey, Megan.
I can't even see. Can you see the comments?
I can, yeah.
Yes.
They just said hello.
Hey, y'all, I can't see that. Hold on, let me see if I can fix something here. Because I want that to show up at the bottom. Let's see how we can get that. And I know y'all didn't want to have us sit here and do technical things while we on the podcast with y'all, but I would rather we see y'all comments while we're on the live. So let me try to figure that out while we are currently on the live so we can make sure it looks right for y'all. So everybody can see each other and we can interact with y'all. So I appreciate y'all with bearing with us when we get all these things, all these kinks evened out, and I appreciate y'all for being patient with us.
If you minimize your screen and then on the side it'll say private chat or comments
Yeah.
on your right hand
Yep,
side.
I
Click on
see.
comment.
I'm trying to see how to get it to go over on the screen. Let's see. Mm,
There you go.
There you go.
yeah. Okay. Oh, thank you, Megan.
You.
Okay, so my
Still
story, I'll start off while we waiting on Eb to jump back on.
It kicked
Oh
Veronica
wait,
out too.
yeah, I see her. Hold on. All right, V, can you hear us? Okay,
Hey.
there she, and then she went back off. There we go.
Mhm.
Okay, hold on. Okay, Eb is coming through. Can you hear us? She looked like she can't hear us. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. We was waiting on you.
No, you wasn't. I heard all the smack you was talking.
No, I
Nah.
just wanted to tell a quick introduction about my perspective, I would say, of daddy issues in my life. I didn't really have a bad relationship with my dad personally until probably about 14, 15 when my parents got divorced. It became strained. I felt like when he divorced her, he divorced me because I didn't choose to move with him. It was kind of one of those things like you chose to live with her. It is what it is. And that it was strained until I had my oldest daughter at 19. So, I mean, I love my dad. That was my best friend. I was closer to my dad than I am with my mom now. But, life happens, and being a 14, 15-year-old without having your dad, you go through things that you're trying to supplement that that male void in your life. And that's when I started to date older guys. And I will say that definitely, was a big part of my teenage years, and things that I went through was not having my dad, because I'll be honest, your mom, when they punish you, you're scared of them. But when your dad punishes you, it's like, I ain't supposed to do that. My dad told me I ain't supposed to do that. It's just a different type of punishment. So I think, I didn't even finish high school. I ended up getting my GED. And these are all things that I honestly feel like if my dad was still active in my life, I would have finished high school. I feel like I would have went straight to college, probably when I had my daughter at 19. These are all things I think about, growing up and actually feeling like it had to have stemmed from something, right? And then also just seeing the way that my parents interacted, when I was growing up. Again, I didn't have a bad relationship with him, but I did see the way that he treated my mom and the way he treated my brother. And those were all things that I feel like kind of came into my parenting. Now I kind of parent like my dad, which is not necessarily a good thing, right? My dad has a short temper and was not as attentive as he should have been. And that was something that I will say ended up being part of my grunting or whatever you want to call it of how I raised my kids until I actually one day realized like I'm a bad mom. And I honestly told myself that one time. And this was when my oldest daughter was maybe 15, I would say, around the same age I was when I started messing up. But she was doing a lot more things than I did at that age. So it was just like, I had to figure out, okay, she's like this because of my parenting, and I had to admit that. And I changed a lot of things that I did. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. If I could take back a lot of things that I did in my children's lives, I would take a lot. But, you live and you learn, and it's not much you can do besides forgiving yourself and letting your kids know, regardless of whatever happened in their life, you don't blame them for it. So I don't know. That's just my perspective on that.
I'll say with myself, it's a little bit different. I think that from the start, just being the the third child in the home, my mom and dad wanted nothing but a little boy. My first sister is not my father's child. So when my mother had my second sister, it was my father's first daughter, and he wanted a girl and a boy. When I came along, I was supposed to be a boy, so they were all super excited about it. And then all of a sudden, here I came and I was a girl. And so it was like I put that damper on the home of, oh, now we have three girls in the home and not the boy to carry out my dad's last name and whatever, whatnot. I say I probably had a really good relationship with him just in the beginning. And then all of a sudden, when my brother did come, that relationship kind of just was strained. I felt like I was a child that was just there. Like nobody had time for me. I was all alone. I was singled out. My sisters had each other and my mom. My brother had my dad, and I just happened to just be there. Along the way, though, I seen all of the heartache that my father caused my mom. And so when I started to turn into my teenage years, I wanted nothing to do with anybody that reminded me of my father. So I was looking for a guy that was total opposite of him because I just always felt like my dad was a piece of shit. Excuse my language. Um, and I didn't want anything that reminded me of that, but I didn't know what a healthy dad looked like. And so I constantly was trying to recreate what a healthy dad looks like in the relationships that I was in. Like, oh, if I'm with you, I want it to be the healthiest version of what I feel. Because if we have children, I want you to be able to be a healthy father to my children. um, it didn't come to me until I was like in my 30s of like how all of that affected me. Um, my entire being when my mom and dad split. My dad had a relationship with my middle sister and not the rest of us. And so we only seen him on holidays. And when we would see him, it was just our highs and our goodbyes. And he would always tell me, like, oh, I wish you could be more like your sister. And it's like, you don't even know who I am to be always trying to push, like, I wish you'd be more like your sister. And I didn't want to be anything like my sister as well. I wanted to be independent and I wanted to be able to stand on my own 2 feet. And so it was like, do you even know who we are? And so when I was in my 30s, we finally started to have conversations. And he, in that moment, realized he knew nothing about me. We then started to build a relationship, but it was like building a relationship and me trying to tell you who I am and show you who I am. um, and all of the things that I went through in my life of why it is that I'm not like my sister. I'm not like my sister because I endured a whole lot more than my sister did. Like, good for you for taking her and, raising her and giving her a good life, but the rest of us suffered. And the rest of us ended up going through a lot of traumatic events. And you weren't there. And so in that moment, I realized that I blamed him for a lot of that. Like, if you are also supposed to be my parent when my mother no longer could do her job, that's when you were supposed to step in. That's when you were supposed to protect me and you were supposed to be there. And I blamed him for a lot of it and didn't even realize it when I was in my teens and my 20s that I was angry with him more than I knew it in myself.
Wow.
Yeah, it gets deep.
So I'll go next. Um, my relationship with my dad was really good from being a small child up until I was 4 when he left the home. Um, my dad is a very complex man. He's how can I say it? He likes to dress. He likes to look good. The ladies admired him. Um, he's a handsome man, whatever. And so when you're a little girl and you got your dad and your dad is, he's putting you in the bathtub and he's warming up the bath towels for you and he's putting you on the school bus and he's, you know, doing all the things that dads are supposed to do. And then for that to just stop somewhere, like, it's like, whoa. But for me, it was weird because it stopped and then it would restart because him and my mom, they would go back and forth up until he got my brother's mom pregnant. And then it stopped completely. So I was about 6 at that time. But um, I didn't really have my dad in the forefront, but I had my grandmother. And my grandmother stepped in and did all the things that my dad should have been doing, his mother. And so I was around my family and I was around my cousins, but, and I think I said it in my Facebook post today, I had a loving dad for when he was around, but he was an absent one. I didn't have him. And so for many years, I fought with trying to understand, like, why did he leave? Why did he leave? And why did he have more kids? And why didn't he have more kids with my mom? They were married. Like, I had all these questions that a child shouldn't even have at such a young age. And then, you know, being at my aunt's house, I was at my auntie's house a lot as a child, and being at my aunt's house, and then, you know, him coming through to visit, it was like the uncle coming through, like, hey, you know, and it was bittersweet, because I wanted to love, like, every time I saw him, I'm excited, I'm happy, best thing in the world when I'm in his presence, but it was very, very seldom. When I was 9 years old, you know, people can count how many times they did anything with their dad. I remember going to his house. I'll go back a little. When I was about five or six, I remember going over to his house. He lived in an apartment by himself, and I remember going over there some weekends, but for the most part, like, being with my dad and actually spending time with him, I have one memory. And that's when I was 9 years old. We went and he got me the Baby Girls doll. And then 2 years later, he moved to Alabama and I was still living in Michigan. And from the time I was 11,
You got this.
so the time I was 20 was the last time I saw my father. When I was 20, he surprised me and came here to Minnesota to visit me for, I think it was a week, when I was 20. And we have a homie, that's my homie friend type relationship. My mom was a good mom. Issues I had with my mom came as I got older, but as a child, she never condemned him. She never bashed him. My mom still showed me what I needed to know to be a good wife, to be a good woman, to be a good mother. She gave me those qualities. But I'm about to admit something that I probably had never admitted in my life, and I believe that my desire to get married so young was because I wanted a family, because I didn't have one, because mine got broke up. And so I got married really young, and really young. I was 21, and I wanted that so badly. And I still feel like, I mean, I talked to my dad for the first time in almost a year this Saturday that just passed. And I still feel like this little girl sometimes that just wants my dad to love me. Because when I was younger and I'm dating boys and I'm dealing with boys, I think that's what I searched for so long, was that love that I had as a 4-year-old little girl, for somebody to give me what he paused on me, where he stopped. Because it wasn't always not present. But when he wasn't present anymore, I searched for that and I longed for that. And it's so crazy because my husband reminds me of my dad in a lot of ways. The care and the love that I get from him, the way that he talks to me when we're playing, those things. But I learned this weekend my anxiety about doing this podcast was more about my family. And I'm saying this and putting it out here, how my family would feel that I'm even exposing this conversation, or how many people are going to call me. And you know what? Don't call me. I have a right to voice how I feel. And so that's where I'm at. I have to address my issues here because those tests told me that I don't have any issues. And I said it's a lie and I answered those tests honestly. But the reality is that sometimes you can suppress things so far and so deeply inside yourself that you can appear to be okay for so many years and you really not be. And I'm just tired of pretending like I'm okay. I mean, I'm on my third marriage. Okay. My final happy marriage, but I'm on my third marriage. That came from somewhere, and I'm not blaming my dad for that. What I'm saying is that I longed for and I searched for something that I didn't have for so long, and I felt empty. The closest thing I had to a dad was my brother and sister's dad. He raised me from the time I was 11 to 14, and or 13, and then he died. And then when he died, we didn't find out for 4 months till 4 months later. So, I mean, what I had as father figures either went missing or passed away. And so my issues are, they stem deep. They go back to that 4-year-old little girl who lost her family and tried to find it again. So that's my little story about my dad. And y'all will see me post pictures of my dad. My dad, it's crazy. I can't escape him. I look just like my dad. Just like my dad. Like, it's so, out of all of us kids, I look just like him. And that's hard. That used to be hard because, like, I would see myself and I would see him, especially younger him. And it's just hard. It's hard. And so for my daughter, when her father went missing 3 years ago on her, and he's somewhat back, whatever, for her, and he's there for her as he needs to be for her. But it did something to me because I did not want to put my baby in that predicament. I did not want her. Her dad, she had an amazing dad until she was 12, and then whatever, he disappeared for a little bit. I say disappeared because he wasn't the same as he had always been to her. And so that ate me alive, but I had to realize that those were my issues that were eating me alive. It wasn't her issues or the issues that it wasn't so much of what he was doing. It was what I was still angry about when it came to my own dad. And I had to come to grips with that. And so I appreciate this topic because it's really shining light on areas that a lot of people don't even realize they need that help, or to be able to even just say it out loud, like, I have daddy issues, period.
Well, and to even know what all comes with that. It's not always that we're searching for somebody to replace our fathers, but it gives us all different kind of issues of a void that needs to be filled. And the void can look like multiple different things. Like I said, when I was born and my brother came along, it put me in this I'm singled out place. And so my fear is to be alone. But when I get close to people, I tend to push them away before they can push me away. And so it creates this tunnel that we're all trying to fill, whatever that may look like.
For me, my dad wasn't around. So like my heart really goes out to y'all, the ones who did have a dad, and that, your dad hurt you. Because that's like, I think I think that's where everything for me started, with expectations in life. I didn't even have a dad. So it was like, if you can't even expect a parent to be around, what can you really expect from other people? Is how I really feel like I had such low expectations for men. I had such low expectations when dating, because I was just like, I didn't know what it looks like or what it felt like. Even now, like, I still have issues, because without a man to show you what a man's love is like, you settle for anything, because you don't even know what type of love you're supposed to be receiving. You don't know how he's supposed to treat you. You don't know how he's supposed to respect you. You don't know anything. My dad was in prison my whole life. And I remember when I was probably like 5 or 6 years old, he got out of prison and he came and he seen me and he told me that he was going to come back. And then he went back to prison. And so it's funny, I can't remember a lot of things, but I remember that because that meant so much to me. Man, y'all, I hate to even talk about this.
That's what we're here for, babe.
We
I
gonna
know.
Because it's like what you were saying, Eb, like, you just get so used to something, I've been so used to not having a dad. I never thought about not having a dad,
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
it was just normal. But now that I think about it and I'm really processing it, like, I missed a lot and I went through a lot, and like, it's not his fault. But at the same time, I could have been better prepared if I would have known what that looked like, But instead, I'm just settling and just going with the flow, because it's like, this is a man. So this must be what men do. My dad wasn't even around. So this man doing better than my dad. He ain't ran. He ain't gone, So I could just really relate in a sense, like Davina was saying, like, it looks different. I have deep-rooted abandonment issues. And that came about probably even before my dad. Like, it was just something that was rooted in me from missing that piece, missing him. You know what I'm saying? Without even consciously knowing that I'm missing him. And so I kind of overdo things now in life. Like, when I'm into somebody, I'm like really into them. It's like, this is my thing and I don't want to let this thing go because I'm afraid I'm going to lose it.
Yep.
and you might not get it back.
Exactly.
So I'm gonna piggyback on what V just said. I didn't think I had any daddy issues until we started digging into this, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about it. When I took the test, it says you may have anxious, preoccupied daddy issues. It says you seem to fear that your partner might leave you, and I definitely always feel that way. You may get called clingy or needy because of this. This could stem from a traumatic childhood, which I didn't feel like I had a traumatic childhood. I'm the baby big time of 4 kids. There's a 13-year age gap between me and my other next oldest sibling. However, I feel like I did kind of miss out on some things because, my siblings were super close to each other. They got to do all these family great camping trips together. They have completely different family memories than I have with our parents. I'm not saying I had a bad childhood. My dad, took me to dance class, and my dad provided for the family, whatnot. However, like, he was raised by a single mom himself. His own dad died when he was 8, and it was him and my aunts that were left alone a lot. A lot of it, maybe my dad didn't necessarily know how to show love and affection because he didn't necessarily get that at home from my grandma when he was young. It's really tough. My dad's been gone for 10 years now, going on 11. And I'm like, I always thought he was a great dad, and I always thought I had a great childhood. But then now digging into it, I'm like, oh, there's definitely things that it was my mom that went to school conferences. It was my mom that came to my sports events. My dad came occasionally. My dad would go to some church things occasionally go to like the big church things like confirmation and those big things. But my mom would be the one that would be taking me to Sunday school and doing that stuff. I did take one of the other tests that we had posted or shared with each other, and it said I had no issues. I know Eb said hers all showed no issues. So it's just kind of you know, to like dig into this further. I think for anybody, I kind of tend to look for that partner to complete me. I did date a guy that was 10 years older than me for about 6 months. It was a huge mistake in my life, let me tell you. But, it's like maybe I do have some daddy issues that I didn't want to deal with.
And again, daddy issues doesn't necessarily mean that you had a bad relationship with your dad. It could be that you had a very, very good relationship with your father, and then all of a sudden you grew up and you had to spring the nest, and
Yep.
now you no longer have dad in your home to see you every day to do the things that he was doing once before in your life. And that could be traumatic within itself of, I've lived all of my being with this man, and now he's no longer here, and I don't feel the safety and the protection, and I'm not getting the amount of attention or love or care or whatever it is that your father provided you in that moment. When it's no longer there on a daily basis, it could be traumatic, it could be stressful, it could be hurtful, it could do a lot of things to you mentally, emotionally, and physically.
I think I was the opposite. So when I was a kid, from when you know how they say you go and you become more clingy and you're like, I'm not clingy. I don't search phones. I'm the type, I'll let things unravel. I don't have the need to, and I think it stems from uh it's the opposite effect. It's like I don't want to dig, search, and find. But if I ever do, I know the raft of all godly HE double hockey sticks is gonna come out, because I know I don't put people in a predicament to feel like I don't trust them. I think I have more of a trusting heart until you show me something different, which is what happened as a child. I had a trusting heart till he showed me something different. And then he walked away. And that's kind of how I move. I don't have the trust piece outright, but if you put me in a predicament to where I have that, I don't even know what'll happen. Like I blank out and I become and I witnessed this happening in my previous relationship. And I'm done. Like I just can't even. That's why I remember telling you guys that fidelity and infidelity is a non-negotiable for me.
Mm-hmm.
It will ruin everything for me, because my parents, that's what ruined my parents. And so with that, it's something I can't deal with and stomach. So yeah, I just wanted to share how mine is a little different, the reverse of the clinginess. I'm kind of like the other way.
And that's why I said in the beginning of mine, as mine played a different adverse effect, as well as I watched my father beat on my mother. And so whenever I'm in a relationship with someone and the first sign I get of that, it's done. I'm
Yep.
gone. And I'm not even going to tell you that I'm done and I'm gone. I'm just going to
Yep.
be gone. It's like my relationship of seeing my mother and father grow has already built that safety within me to where I automatically have a built-in safety plan of, when you start to show me the signs of what I've seen in my father, I already start my exiting plan, that I have to go. And I've learned that I need to move that in silence by watching how it affected my mother in that relationship. And so it's not that I've ever meant to do it, it's just in me. Like when you start to, those red flags start to show up of any signs of abuse, or even with how my dad would come around and say, like, I wish you could be more like your sister. When people start to try to make changes within me without allowing me to make those changes, I'm like, oh, in my head, I'm packing already. I'm gone. I'm out. Like I can't do it. Even though I fear to be alone, I always attend to push everybody away though and put myself in a position to where I'm still back feeling alone. And I think that feeling alone is like my comfort area because that's where I always found myself was alone. Like I said, my sisters had each other, my brother had my dad, so I didn't really feel like I fit in and I had anything. So as much as I don't like that space, that seems to be my comfort space.
And see, for me, because I was trying to think about daddy issues that I may have, because me and my dad have a very, very close relationship. Like he's my best friend, literally. Like my pen is his birthday, his pen is my birthday, and we don't even do that on purpose. But I was trying to think back. I was trying to think like when have I ever like been upset with him? And what I do know is that I have mommy issues. My mother was the one that was toxic towards me. She was the one that was mentally abusive towards me. She was the one. She would do things that she hadn't just no business doing as a parent. Um, but I do remember being upset with my dad because when him and her split, you know what I mean. I felt like he left me in a bad situation, and I used to try hard to pull to be with my dad. And my mom, she was very dominant. Like she ran my dad, even in the marriage. You know what I mean? She was a very, very strong minded, like she wanted to be she wanted to be the head of household. So my dad really didn't have a say so over anything. But I remember having some resentment towards him when I was younger. Obviously now that I'm older, I give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, what choice did you have? I see what I'm up against with my mother as an adult. So I'm like, I could just imagine how hard it was for him. You know what I'm saying? Being I'm her child as well. But I would have to say that, I felt like he did leave me in a bad situation. And I feel like mentally, you know, I was scarred because of that, because of what she took me through when because he was like always my, he was my protector, like he would see it and then he would like pull me to the side or be like, come on, let's go, let's go to the store or something, you know what I mean? To try to intervene. So I didn't really get a lot of that mental abuse when he was home, but when he left and he left me and my brothers, like everything went just to pieces. My brothers ended up leaving the house early. Then I was really, stuck. And I remember even actually trying to take my own life because I didn't want to be there with my mom, and she would not let me go with my dad. Like there was no way. She just, I don't know. It's almost like she fed off of that. Like she was happy seeing me miserable. So that would be my daddy issue. Because I was trying to think earlier, like what, because I love my dad. Like my dad is my world, you know. But I'm just like, yeah, I remember, even though it may not have been his fault, I feel like he could have probably fought a little harder for us, knowing that it was just not a good environment for us mentally.
Patricia says, this is awesome, ladies. I never thought I had daddy issues until I listened to this. It's deeper than the issues of the negative. Like I said, I still to this day, I probably light up like Christmas tree if my dad, when he called on Saturday and my insides did that. But, we all struggle with something when it has to do with whether it's our fathers, the fathers of our children, that we chose as fathers for our children. Heck, granddaddy issues, which stemmed, led into some issues we may be having with your father. You never know where it comes from. But I like how Davina said that there's a lot of different spins on it. It's not all just negative. Janet, you just shared the example of that. It wasn't your father that you had that experience with, it was your mother. But on top of it being your mother, being stuck with your mother had some resentment in as a small child, because it's like, hey, you got me here with this lady, and so though it may not be a negative with your dad, sometimes we have things that are surrounding our parents that we feel they could have done differently or handled differently. And you're giving other people a different spin on it. So I appreciate what you just shared, because your spin is something that somebody I'm sure can relate to. Veronica, I couldn't even imagine. Having the experience or not having the experience, I don't know what's worse, but I love you.
Thank you. I love you too. In life, you just kind of roll with it, right? And that's kind of what I've been doing. But it's like, it's apparent to me when I look at other people that had two parents or even had a dad present in their life. Like, you can really see the difference in a person. It really, having a dad adds value to a child's life. And yes, it can be negative effects too, but it's still things that a man can only do in his children, just like there's things that a mother can only do in their children. So you have to respect respect both equally. And that's a part that I know that I missed in my life, is having that pour in from a man that loved me, that taught me things, that protected me, that showed me what to take, what not to take, what to expect, what not to expect. I never got any of that. And so, yeah, it's just, it's life. It's my life. It's not everybody's life, but I just came to the terms with his life. And then I got to this place. It's so crazy. Like you said, like, I never really processed it and thought about it. Like, how did this really affect you? How do you really feel about not having a dad? It was just always, well, my dad's not around. It just is what it is. I never really processed it and really thought about it. So I'm just appreciative to have this space, because there's one less thing now that I have just sitting inside of me, stored away. Now, I'm working on it and it's out. So I'm grateful for that. And I love y'all.
We love you
Yeah,
too.
I think about my kids and what they go through. My oldest daughter, her dad, in and out of her life, he's the shoe dad, is what you might as well call him. He buys Jordans or Timberlands or whatever here and there. And anything that he added to her life was negative. So it's like, you know, was it necessarily a good that he was present somewhat? You know what I mean? Like, I think about that all the time. And then, my second daughter, her dad lived in Brooklyn Park. You would think he lived in somewhere over out the country, because he's just not present. And it's not for any specific reason. It's just because he's not. And I'm pretty sure there's some of his family who might be looking at this podcast right now while I'm talking. But they know he's not present in her life. And they're not in her life either. So, and it's like, it doesn't necessarily, daddy issues also stem to family issues. And, it's all collectively. And I look at my daughter and I think, she'll be 16 in May. And it's like, there's so many things that I know would be different with her if her dad was in her life, and I think about that all the time. Everybody says, oh, you should choose the people you have kids with better. And it's like, what? When you meet people and you're dating someone, the person that they show you when you're dating is not always the same person that they become when you have a child, when the relationship continues on. So I hate when people say that, because it's like, of course, now if you look at who I had two daughters by, you'd be like, girl, what she was on. But, that's just what happened. And it is what it is. But I mean, that's neither here nor there. But I just think about the fact that, she has those moments where I'm like, if she had a dad around, she probably would not be acting out like this, or this would not be, what she's choosing to do with herself. So,
Yeah, that's totally true. Totally true. I feel for mines too, and their fathers being absent. I was beating myself up the other day, like, I just wish I would have done better. But you're right, Devin, because you don't know in that moment, you know what I mean, that this is how this person is going to end up being, and it sucks. It really sucks, because what do you tell your child, My daughter's 24 years old, and I don't know. What do you tell her? I'm sorry.
You tell her that responsibility is a MF,
Yeah,
and that's proof
I
that
tell my kids that a lot. I'm sorry.
when responsibility comes knocking on these guys' doors,
right.
it's a fight or flight situation.
Hmm. Yeah. So I don't know, but I get you on that 100%.
You know, I was fortunate to have a good, he was good to me. His relationship with my mom, not so great, but my brother and sister's dad, he was a good man to me. Um, you know, he loved me. And then he died, like I said, when my brother and sister were babies. But then I think about my daughter, and then I think about who she has in her life. You know, my husband is a great, great father to her. Um, you know, these men, just like our dads, the men that we've chosen to have kids with, they're going to have to answer to these children.
Mhm.
Just like we have to hold our parents accountable, they're going to be held accountable as well. These kids is not, they ain't going. Eventually, they're going to have to be held accountable for their actions. It's not up to us as the mothers, especially my mom did a phenomenal job. I feel like my mom did a phenomenal job. There were some issues, but I feel like my mom, for the most part, she instilled great qualities in me, good qualities. She didn't, like I said, she didn't bash, she didn't talk smack. She always would say, "You gonna see." I got my first child support check when I was 17. It was for $67. I started getting them the last month, August, my birthday, September. I started getting them in August. Those 4 weeks, she gave me those checks for gas. Now, here you go. It's your money, you know, the child support that I did get. But she never once sit there and say, "That's all raggedy. This all," she just said, "Here you go. This child support." You know, I commend her for, even though that situation was what it was, teaching me how to be a good woman to a man, despite the fact that I could be walking around here angry, upset, bitter, not knowing how to talk, just how a lot of us end up because we're so hurt from something that happened to us long, long ago. Because molestation and drugs and all that, that's not the only thing that affects us. Abandonment issues suck bad when it comes from the man that's supposed to be that one that loves you the most and the one you're supposed to trust, the first man in your life. When that man abandons you, it does something to you. It does.
Hmm.
It does something to you. So if you have people in your life that are strongly trying to help you grow through that, you win. That's how I feel. In some ways, you still gonna have that pain, but at least I feel like at least I grew up with some other ways of coping and thinking from a positive place. Versus your daddy ain't sh, you know what, and your daddy wasn't this, and your daddy ain't that, and your daddy ain't do. I didn't get none of that. Get none of that.
I can agree. Abandonment, I'll say that's why I think I hung on to those relationships that I should have let go a long time ago. Because it's like you don't want to be without. You want to have that person, that you feel like this is mine, this is for me, this is my person. And if it would have been my dad being my person that whole time, then I probably would not have kids at this point, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like life would be different if I would have looked back and been like, if my dad was there to be like, girl, he don't love you. That's all I needed.
And,
But, you know,
yeah, that's deep. I didn't realize I was so anxious about doing this. Um, I really was, but I feel better that I feel good that we're doing this. Um,
That we
let's read
hashed it
some of the
out.
comments.
yeah, I'm looking at them too, I'm trying to read them too. Um, Tasha, this is us, or no, that's Latricia. That's me. When I see things that I do not like about my dad, I end the relationship quickly. Yeah, I the first cheat on me. Yeah,
They
that's
say
wrong. Have a conversation with somebody on me. I'm done. I'm weird like that. It is what it is. I can't even, because of what I know what happened in my household as a kid. And I'm trying to get better with that. I'm trying to not say that I'm trying not to say what my non-negotiables are, because you never know what might happen. But I know what has happened, and when it has happened, what direction I've always gone. And I'll be out the door. Like, out the
I'm
door.
Africa
not the runaway
said,
bride. I'm the runaway girlfriend.
Exactly.
Africa said, I seen a lot of my fathers in my children's father, which made it hard because as a mom, you want to rewrite your children's story. Yet the 4-year-old in me was needing my child's father for me too, because I missed mine. Oh,
And her
yeah.
father is my cousin, so I want to hug her so hard.
Hugs to Africa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep, she hugged us earlier. We hugging you back, girl.
No, it really does. And every child needs both parents. I agree.
Mhm.
I agree heavily. If you can have that, I agree. I think one of the things that attracted me to my husband was because I can't be with nobody that don't take care of their kids.
Mm.
And when we communicated, I'm like, hey, I done been married twice. I got 8 kids. And I'm sitting here thinking like, what the? And so when I started dating him, he's like, well, I got to pick these 2 up here. And they was kids at the time. They grown now. But it's like, I got to pick up these 2 on Saturday. And then I got to pick up this one on Sunday. And then this one's coming in from Texas. And he's going to be here all summer. And then I got this one doing this. And he was so strategic with his children. And he was so there. And that's something that I didn't know. So when my daughter's father started making excuses about coming over the bridge to pick her up, I started looking at things a little bit differently. Like, wait a minute, you across the bridge and it's a problem to come pick up your child when he's picking up your child and 2 more over here and 1 down the street and then and so my views, I had to remember that maybe I was thinking, you know what I mean? Like maybe comparing in a way that I shouldn't have been comparing, but no, that's not true. That's not fair. He should have been able to come over them bridges to get her, just like this man is, because that's what fathers do. And I'm trying to give all this mental grace, like, oh, maybe I'm comparing. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I shouldn't be comparing what one person should do for the next. But no, nah, you should have been, because I'm watching this man be strategic in the middle of a pandemic. Okay. Masks on and everything, going to pick up kids and doing all this stuff, and you can't come up. And I'm with you, Devin, when you said I used to say that all the time, be careful who you have kids with. How the heck you supposed to know?
Exactly.
You
How you
can't.
supposed to know?
I have a funny story about my second daughter's dad. He was helping take care of my oldest daughter like she was his. I'm talking about cooking meals, cleaning the house, ironing clothes. That was that representative, right? So when people say, how did you have a kid by him? He was amazing at that time.
And that's
And then
why
as soon as
like
he had a baby, then it was like, haha, I got you now. It was Jekyll and Hyde, like literally.
it wasn't that he got
completely
you now. It was responsibility came knocking at his door. The first one wasn't his responsibility. So
Was he born in June?
different. He should be.
Agreed.
it's responsibility. I can say my second daughter's dad was the same way. We were together when I had my first daughter. He took care of her like there was no tomorrow. He was the best dad to her. But the moment we had a child of our own, it was like he treated our child like the evil stepchild, and the child that was not ours together was his princess and his pride and joy. And so The only thing that I can wrap around in my head of why is because the responsibility. The first one was not his, so if he was to bail and leave, he wouldn't feel any type of way. But to know like this one now is mine and I am responsible for a whole nother individual, that's very scary to guys.
Yep. And also trying to prove something to you, right? Because they're dating you. Look, I can take care of your kid and I love her like she's mine. But then as soon as you have a child by the same person, it's like a whole different, like a different mask came off or something. Like if I literally had a video camera to go through everything I went through at that time, y'all be like, that's the best seller.
I feel like it's kind of interesting because my three kids all have the same dad, but I feel like he's such a better dad to our oldest than the other two.
And so yours is opposite, yeah. Yeah, I was with my second daughter's dad for 3.5 years before I had a child with him. So he kept that fake mask on for a long time.
We had the first one before we were married, the second two after we were married. So it's kind of interesting.
Read some more comments. We got some good stuff in there.
Wait, where did we leave off? You didn't miss it, Miss Cheryl. We still in here. And no, we haven't wrapped up yet. That's how I feel about my kids' dad. My dad paid for chaperones on flights to get me from Philly to Chicago. My kids' dad have all the excuses in the world. So Tasha, you have a reverse story too from the negative, in regards to your relationship with your dad. Wow, my heart goes out to you. It's hard when you have that parent factor and then you look at your children and it's something completely different. I'm sending love. How can I get in? You're already in?
I think she's talking about the prayer line.
Oh. I don't even know. We didn't decide to do that tonight, did we?
Wednesdays, we said we were going to do prayer after we wrap up.
Did we decide this week? Was it
No,
this
we
week?
didn't decide to add to the podcast yet.
Okay. My granny used to say, be careful who you have kids by. Yeah, so did mine, all of mine. I never understood until I had kids. Yeah, typically when it happens is after the fact and you're looking at them like, God dang it. But it's deep. This is a very deep topic. And again, one that it's either one that a lot of people try to stay away from. And I ain't gonna lie, I didn't even know how to approach it, especially after he called me. He called me on Saturday, like out of nowhere. And I felt like that little girl again, like, hi, Daddy.
Mm-hmm.
I always revert back, hi, Daddy.
I do the same thing.
I love you. He's like, hey, what's your name? I said, hey, what's your name? I ain't heard from you, kid. I ain't heard from you either. But at the end, I love you, Daddy. And I do. I really do. Like, I really do. But there's just things that are there, just things that are there, hurtful things that are there. And unfortunately, we can't go back and fix it. So it's like, what do we do going forward? And if we can't go back and fix it, it's almost like Will Smith. Remember when Will Smith had that little outbreak in the real Fresh Prince, or the first Fresh Prince, and he was like, why don't he want me? Every time I see that, I lose it, even from back in 91, 92 when I seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I never understand. And I think that's part of the reason why I am with the whole fidelity thing, because I'm like, I hate rejection. I have this thing with rejection because I feel like I got rejected by my own father. I feel like I wasn't good enough. And, in so many ways, like my dad moved to Alabama with his 4 boys and their mom. Again, I'm still in Michigan. Again, feeling like here I am over here, abandoned, unloved, unwanted.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
So,
can agree with that. I've got a younger brother that a lot of people don't know. I have a younger brother because my dad had him when I was 13 or 14, I think. So he's a lot younger than me. We didn't grow up together. It was my brother, and then my younger brother came along when my brother was graduating high school. So I don't know.
wow.
That's always been a touchy subject because that was, he came about from infidelity. So um, we never had that, and we still don't have that relationship. And it's always been, I feel guilty because, I'm the older sister. You would think, I should be the one to go and initiate things. And I don't know if it's necessarily like a resentment I have that, when he's starting around me, it's like now he has this new kid, and now it's the relationship that I had is now with my little brother and him. They were always doing things, and he didn't need to call me because he had my little brother. So it's like, yeah.
My brother that I'm the closest with is the brother that I was the first brother that was born in 86 that my dad had. Um, I met my brothers. I see my brothers for the first time at my wedding in 30 years, 2 of them. I did not even know that one of them was going to show up, but 2 of my brothers was at my wedding in 2021. And the one that I was so hurt about being born is the one that I be sharing memes with, and we be talking and we be messaging, and that relationship has blossomed ever since that my wedding. But it was a place I had to get to that place. So I'm hopeful that you can get to that place with your little brother because he didn't do nothing, and I know you know that, but it's just the luck of the draw. I got many siblings, so I understand. I really
Yeah, it's
do.
it's just the 3 of us, supposedly. I don't know. Maybe this
It's okay.
podcast will
You
have
know
other
what? I'm
brothers and
not
sisters come
doing that
out. I
with
don't
you.
know. My
I
dad,
do
look, I'm
want
putting on record. My dad
I do
told
want
me,
to say before we wrap up anything, I want to say that due to this podcast and for whoever is watching and may understand their own daddy issues that they have, for us to always be mindful of our children. And although we might not be able to pick the perfect partner or father for our children, that if the relationship isn't detrimental with the kids, to always be able to leave that door open because we are girls and we long for that daddy daughter relationship. And we need that, regardless if the relationship with you and your significant other don't work out. If it's not detrimental to the child, to always leave that door open for them to be able to come back through. Because, yes, when you turn into an adult and you look back, that can affect the situation a lot. And then you start to mind play of whose fault was it really? Was it your fault? Was it your mom's fault? Was it your dad's fault? And that blame needs to be placed somewhere. I've always left the door open for all of my children's fathers to be able to have that relationship with my children, maybe not with myself, but with my children. That way, then I could remove myself away from that blame and they could see that it wasn't me, that it actually was their dad. Um, with my third daughter, though, I did close that door. And that was because that relationship was detrimental to my child. And I felt like, as her mother, I had to protect her. And that was my duty and my job. And I knew that that later on could be a bombshell on its own for me to have to face with her. But I knew what it was that I was going to have to tell her in the end of why it is that I closed that door and did not allow that relationship to continue to be there and or grow. Um, I never tried to tell them anything bad about their fathers. Um, I wanted them to be able to learn whatever they learned on their own. If dad brings you Burger King once every other month, makes him a superhero, then I guess he's a superhero. I might talk stuff in my own presence or, when the kids are not around, but whenever they are around, I try not to put any of my feelings and my thoughts in their head. Um, Sometimes that can be a double-sided sword in relationships. And so just my personal advice is girls need their dads, regardless of however we feel about the situation. And it could be detrimental later on in life if we don't allow that to happen, regardless if it worked with us or not.
Agreed.
Tasha said the relationship with siblings on the dad side is hard, especially when the mother is not a fan of the child outside of them. Yeah. I think that's another reason why it was hard for me to get a relationship with my little brother, because his mom is a fighter. I'll just say
How old is he?
No, he's
How
grown
old is
now.
he?
He's
Then
in his
y'all,
20s.
y'all can do it up now when you want, whenever you're ready. Y'all can do it up whenever you're ready.
She used to do some stuff, and my mom is nice, so it'll be like,
yeah,
everybody ain't nice over here.
My mama nice, but I'm not.
Man, I protect my mom to the last breath in my body. So yeah, that was just, and that was a long time ago. She could be a different woman now. I don't know. Forgive me, Lord. But that was just at that time. That was what the issue was, and of course, I was a teenager too. So things would just trigger me because it would be like, we're just trying to have a relationship with our brother. Like, what is all that shit for? But you know how that goes. But yeah. But yeah, this was a good topic. I could have went on, but I wanted to let y'all have y'all moments so everybody don't know all my business.
yeah, to cut that in half a couple times and dissect it and be tactful.
That's the chopped and screwed version of my daddy issues.
Correct.
But no, yeah, this was good, and I'm pretty sure we'll probably have some type of extension to this.
So can I ask, and even for the ladies in the audience, really quick, and I want each of us to share one thing too, really quick before we go. Quickly though, what is one positive thing about your father? Just one positive thing that makes you smile about your dad, and go.
My dad talks in one mode and one mode only.
Yeah, he do. He do.
If you ever have a conversation with my dad, you gotta wait.
Yeah.
My dad has a heart of gold. He talks to everybody. The greeter at Walmart, he loves everybody. He has a very big heart.
Love that.
I would say for me, the thing that I've thought about the most, especially recently, since we've been together, is my dad used to always say, don't try to keep up with the Joneses. And I think we always, especially with like all of our, different things that we've talked about, self-esteem, all kinds of these different things, like, it's super important to just be yourself. And I think that's what my dad was trying to teach me all along, and just kind of resonates tonight as a positive thing.
V, I know you didn't have your dad, but what is one thing in life that you feel that is so positive and powerful for you right now? Did she leave? Is she still on here?
Well, it's your turn to tell.
Yeah.
Huh?
It's your turn to tell us.
Who?
You.
I'm looking in the comments first. Hold on. Which I got one, but I got many. Latricia says he constantly tries to mend our relationship. That's beautiful. That is great.
Was you asking me a question, Ed?
Yeah, baby. I said even I was like, Veronica. I said I didn't know you didn't have your dad, but I'm saying, what is one thing, because even though you didn't have your dad, what is one thing that you take that you're just positive about in life right now, that you just feel just so great about?
That I have a father in God. Like that God is my father. He is my provider. He does everything. And what I can say about my dad is that my dad did try to reach out once I got grown. And I listened to my family because I knew my family. I knew my mom, I knew my auntie, and they told me not to connect with him. And I didn't, and I regret that. You know, if I could say anything good about my dad, I can say that he did reach out to me when he finally got out of jail when I was grown, and I declined it. And then he shortly later passed away. And that's something that I regretted deeply, to be honest. But now, you know, I made amends with him, and I've told him that I forgive him, and I prayed that he forgives me. But I think that I needed that so that I could connect with God the way that I connect with him, because I really feel like God is my father. And that's something that I'm very passionate about. And I really love him. And I feel like I could sit on his lap or whatever, you know what I mean? And it's really beautiful because it gives me that feeling that I was always looking for in my life, the fulfillment, the feeling of belonging, the feeling of being a child, you know. So yeah, that's what I
Beautiful.
do.
Tasha says he made sure I knew him and his family, and he apologized for all his faults, or for his faults. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. My dad serenades me. He sings to me. He did when I was a small child. If I called him, he would sing to me. My dad has a very white, deep voice, and he's a good singer. And he's got this debonair look, and he's the cat daddy of the 70s in the 2020s. But the singing, the songs, my love for music, how I know so much about music. Yeah, he's everything in that area. And those are the fond memories I have, is him singing to me all the time.
And then you've got Rashi also singing to
Right.
you.
I was
So
gonna
it's
say that's why
kind of weird,
that's why
right?
you missed me.
Kind of weird with the cat daddy hats and the shoes, and the
Yeah.
only difference is my dad can sing.
Oh, you just trying to put Rashi in second seat. Give him the first seat.
Y'all want to hear him?
No.
No.
Have you
I've
heard
heard him
him?
plenty of times.
No,
Thank
that'll be a negative for tonight.
you. Singing is
I'm
rough,
trying to
y'all.
thank you.
Woo, that singing is rough. But
Well,
I appreciate it.
Detroit trip.
Right.
You know, yes. And yeah, I'm excited for that. I think this was great. I think it was great to say something good, because again, we did not want to we didn't come on here to bash anybody. Like, we basically just wanted to actually share. You know, it's important to, as we're empowering women, to share with women experiences and be transparent. And we want to make sure that we are actually here for women that did, like Latricia said, she didn't even realize that there were certain issues. Like, sometimes you just don't even know until it takes for somebody else or a few somebody else's to even shine light on a subject. So that's what we like to do, is we like to shine light on subjects, and we like to provide the, you know, the platform and place for you guys to talk and say what you feel you need to, but at the same time, you know, be transparent about our own issues. Nobody is perfect. We are not walking in the line of perfection. That's just not what this is.
We are open to suggestions, ladies. If there's anything, any topic, anything that you struggle with, you know, that you might want us to chime in on and see if it's something we struggle with also, you know, you can always share in the comments or even through our inbox or the page, whichever way. We're always open to suggestions on what our next podcast could be.
And not even necessarily anything we struggle with. You know, it could just be a topic that you ladies might want to just hear us discuss in 6 different perspectives. You know, we all don't think exactly the same, so it is good to have topics that, you know, we all have different perspectives on. So that's what we're here to bring a voice to everything at this point.
Yep. Amen.
All right, ladies. Well, we can wrap things up unless somebody else wants to say something. Anybody in the comments want to say anything? We appreciate y'all joining us. Or if you're watching this after it's live and you're watching the recording, we definitely appreciate y'all tuning in whenever you do. We do this for y'all. Yeah.
We do appreciate the shares, so please share this as well, so that other women can, learn about the platform. And are we doing prayer line? That's up to Janet. Anyway, yeah, we want, other women to be involved, so feel free to share the podcast as well.
So I guess the question is for Tasha, since she said, are we doing prayer line? On Wednesdays, usually we do prayer here, but do you feel as if, Tasha, like the actual prayer line is better because you guys are actually able to be involved vocally, or are you okay with the prayer line being tied in with our podcast on Wednesdays?
Yeah, all feedback is good. So just let us know. And hey, Rose.
Hi, thank you. I see that down there.
We love you.
We do. And see you soon. I'll be on your line soon. I know, talking to you about this Detroit visit, because you're super strong and you're going to be up next week wanting to talk about that, because I know you.
Yep. And we here for it.
Yes, ladies, let's go on. We're gonna stick with prayer line tonight. God,
Okay, let's do prayer line. I did also want to say, if you ladies would like also to have some type of a chat, maybe not necessarily prayer line, but an open forum to where we can log on maybe a certain time of day, maybe a certain, time of the week that you ladies want to feel comfortable with jumping in. Let us know. We're taking all different, recommendations and things. So let us know what best suits you. I know some people work different hours, so let us know what y'all would like us to start doing or try to do or whatever. So we're open for anything. So.
And I also want to interject and say that prayer line, that's great to have another forum to actually discuss other issues, because I feel like we should be discussing other issues at a separate time. I believe prayer line, we should be focused on praying, and that's my thoughts.
Amen.
And I feel that we should, if we can create another platform, that would be great, where we can all talk about other issues. I'm for it, but I would, I can't speak for everyone, but I love the direction prayer line has been going in, and how we get on there and we pray and we do what we need to do, to love God and show love to God. And that's his time. And I'd rather not take away from his time.
Amen.
With other things. So
I agree.
Yeah,
okay.
I agree with that.
I agree.
Yeah.
We should leave feeling good and encouraged and empowered.
Right.
Yes. Amen to that. But yes, thank you, ladies. Thank you, everybody. Jump into prayer line. Get ready to jump in.
All right, ladies. We'll see y'all in the prayer line.
Y'all,
yep, we'll see y'all in the prayer line.
Let's join at 8:30. Let's join
all
at
right,
8:30.
that's fair.
Break here. If anybody I gotta get my scripture together.
All right, get your scriptures together. All right, love y'all.
8:30. See y'all in the prayer line. Love y'all.
You got 5 minutes to figure it out.